Wow, to have a prescript as opposed to just shooting from the hip is rather interesting. As if everything, there's not an obsolescence of one's ego as it identifies with the background noise that is one's, uh, the nonsense of one's, you shouldn't even, I can't even say phenomenological, ontological edges, but where one's ego or one's epistemological state of self-definition is crumbled or deconstructed, and the episteme falls prey to the ontology, is an interesting psychological moment, because it's argued, especially within the canonized, kind of like if a university professor finds vulnerability within their ego of the I, they find a defense within the structure of being a professor within the university. And so that it's not that, and that functions as a supplemental ego, which also functions as a supplemental defense. That's how I look at it, at least. And so to shoot from the hip and make how do I speak of it? A disagreement with Heidegger's design or Dasein as always, one of its requirements is that it's always disclosing itself to you, as if the experience, the very word, the very paradigm of discussing something is always having to disclose itself to you, puts the point, the word disclose to you, or the word to you, seems as if it's making it an ex parte to the individual. And so this, of course, brings up, what it means to speak of the I within an egoic episteme of self, where the, experiments, I guess you could say, on life, or testability and truth functions all exist. And to note that I dissolves itself into the Dasein, which Heidegger did not coin by any means, but into the ontological, phenomenological aspects of just existing within synchronous events, and to say that when an event comes that was not there prior, that was the universe, so to speak, disclosing itself to you. Now, this is one framework that I would like to say is to unfold the egonic defenses of professorship, or ivory towers, or temples, or clandestine information, is not simply found within, meaning to make vulnerable to attack, or to release from, to allow the body of knowledge to breathe, is to recognize the temple, so to speak, or the structure of defense, as not finding itself entirely vulnerable, as not finding itself identifying with the buzz of its own background noise. And so there is authoritative stances just in declaration of self, along with the sophistication of different word patterns or paradigmatic strides or descriptors. And I guess what I wanted to discuss, though, was simply the transition from one's epistemic arguments to their phenomenological, ontological argument, and to do this for those who are aspect blind to what the difference might be. It might be like to say, if I say the word A, or the letter A, and then I say now the meaning of the word A, and I say, okay, so A, and then the meaning of the word A. And that's one consideration of A's, or A including the meaning of the word A. And then I say B. Well, B is my saying B, but this reference to B. B is my saying B and the diachronic relationship between your hearing me say the word B, right? So A and the meaning of A, and B the diachronic relationship between your understanding me saying the word B. Okay, so C then is your apprehension of a squared plus b squared equals the hypotenuse, c squared. And that hypotenuse exists with you're hearing all of this at the same time of hearing or sensing a synchronic event in your space-time area when you're hearing this. And so if you hear a synchronic event, or a synchronic event could be a thought that you're having, or it could be an experience that's happening. It's something accentuated from either what we might call a corpus, a body of ontology that is about us, or that there is not necessarily, that there's not a body of ontology that surrounds our being about us. But in any case, for you to find a synchronic event when a squared plus b squared equals c squared, because there's always going to be events of change that are happening about you, and there may be events that go beyond the meaning, where what I'm saying, I'm not referencing how it is you interpret what it is I'm saying. I'm referencing, because that's just included within the A to A, the triangulation, so to speak, of what it means to discuss an experiment in one's episteme and relate it somehow to make a geometry, a point, a signifier into what it means to speak of being in one's ontology relative to following specific or pattern. I guess I'd say not pre-regulated patternings. And so I want to disagree with Heidegger in that it's not always disclosing itself, in that once finding themselves in their being, utilizing language not simply as a qualia of tools of language, but where one's being finds itself not within a corpus. Therefore, the disclosure of the corpus could be echoed in the same manner as a solipsistic argument. So where the solipsism integrates with the expanding ego. So the expanding ego meets solipsism at the border of shooting from the hip in phenomenological, ontological dialogues, or in not dialogues but experiences. And the egoic defense mechanisms, understanding, paradigmatic. When I say paradigms, I'm referencing just strings of logos that are thrown out there that transcend into different I want to call them logical spaces. And so anyway, the point is, if the hypotenuse of a squared, A to meaning, B to the diachronic relation, and C, you're finding the meaning and the diachronics relative to some synchronic event in your world, if that doesn't point to the experience somehow or another, then and you don't find the hypotenuse, so to speak, you don't find the relationship between the point AC, meaning, and the stating of meaning, and BC, which is you're hearing it, and you don't find that hypotenuse has any form to it, then perhaps you're at the AB, you're at the point. Now, if you're at the point, then your theology, because the theology exists within the ontological phenomenological space, that's where it sprouts from, because it's considered that outwardly geometry or Godhead, finding one's within a geometry of space. So I say focal points exist within an ontological phenomenological space where one finds different lattice. So if one has triangulation within phenomenological space, then and that triangulation happens, and it's considered outwardly, like one is living within a monarch or living within some octagon or design or cube, then one can grant the theos outward. If one finds that they themselves are the central point, and that the hypotenuse exists within them, or as opposed to out of them, then they will find a loss of that. But then they're always reiterating the buzz, or ever expanding the buzz through in defense mechanisms. I don't know. I better listen to this, see whether or not I'm conveying any information, shooting from the hip, not prescript in my words here.